What's up, citizens? Welcome to the City Square podcast, where we talk with everyday people about faith and work. My name is John, and if this is your first time tuning in, please, y'all already know, but please take a moment, subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, click the bell, and as you're listening on, don't hesitate to leave any questions or any comments, and we'll definitely keep the conversation going. If you would like to help grow the community, please consider joining our Subscribe Star for only $5 a month. By doing so, you get access to our private Discord, where you can go in-depth talking theology, culture, swapping memes, and giving your input on the channel. So you can find that link below. Don't hesitate to hop over there. Today, my guest is Carlton Roach. He's a husband, he's a father of four, and he's also currently active in active duty in the Marines. How you doing, man?
Doing well, John. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I know it's 9 o'clock where I'm at. It's where you're at 7 p.m., right?
That's right.
Yeah, man. So it's not too late over there.
No, yeah, it's a good time. So
yeah,
just had dinner. The kids are winding down. So
there you go. Perfect. Man, so we just told everybody that you're currently serving in the Marines, man. How long have you been enlisted?
So I enlisted I first enlisted in 2010, but I didn't actually go to boot camp until 2011. So I did a year in the delayed entry program. I had to finish high school, and then I went out to boot camp that summer of 2011. And that was, so this summer will be 13 years.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
How did you find yourself there, man? Do you come from a military family?
Yeah, more or less. So joining the Marine Corps was always my lifelong dream. My dad did 4 years in the Marines. My oldest brother, I have 5 brothers. My oldest brother, John, he joined in 1992, and I was born actually when he was at boot camp. So,
okay,
yeah,
awesome, man.
I had a sister in the Army, another brother in the Air Force. So, definitely, there's definitely some service in the family. I wouldn't call it a huge tradition yet. It doesn't go back generations, but I have 4 kids, so maybe it will become more of a tradition. We'll see.
Yeah, man. We had a guy on a few weeks ago. He does parachurch ministry on a military base, and he was saying that one of the biggest challenges that he faces is with their ministry is trying to realign everybody so that their identity is found in Christ and not the role that they play in the military. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you see with other Christians who are serving as well, being a Marine?
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly commonplace. Identity is maybe something that we can all struggle with. If you want to get into the culture conversation about identity, that could be a rabbit hole too. But as Christians, our identity is in Christ. Serving in the military I would say they do a good job of proselytizing you into the service. Like through indoctrination, where you eat, sleep, and breathe. Marine Corps or whatever service you're part of. So it does kind of become your night and day in the new normal. And so to get away from that environment mentally will take some dedication, some discipline, some study, and help, of course. So,
for sure, man. Are you involved in any ministries where you're stationed?
Not a whole lot. One of the more popular parachurch ministries that I have been a part of in the past is called the Navigators.
Okay.
When we first got out here to California a couple of years ago, we were loosely partnering with them and hosting at our home some couples Bible studies and then a parenting Bible study. So we have in the past. It's just right now this year it hasn't really been on the table. But most of my time in the Marine Corps has been spent in some manner with the Navigators, actually, that ministry.
Nice. I didn't realize what a strong presence they had on campus, on military bases, man. I just
Yeah.
always associated them with college ministry.
Right. Yeah. It's like a whole. It's like a one in the other side of a coin. So they. I don't think there's a base I've been to yet that didn't have some kind of influence or some kind of presence with them. So.
Yeah. So were you a Christian when you joined the military?
I was. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming that you probably grew up in a Christian home, went to church.
Yeah. So, well, I was born in Massachusetts, so I'm originally, New England boy. I grew up attending a Nazarene church.
Oh,
So
nice.
kind of one of the Wesleyan Arminian style, one of those church denominations that came out of the holiness movement from like the 1950s. And yeah, I went to church there. I wouldn't say that I was a Christian until I was about 13. Got baptized when I was 14. Um, Attended different youth groups and churchy things throughout high school. And, I've had seasons of rebellion and sin, but God has been faithful throughout my years, my adulthood, and I'm part of the kingdom.
Gotcha, man. Given where we met, I'm assuming that you're to some extent you moved into more theologically reformed theology.
Yeah, I did. I was for a time, for about a year and a half, doing some college courses with Liberty University online.
Okay.
I was working towards a degree. No degree achieved yet. One of these days, maybe I'll get back into it. But yeah, I had kind of gotten into theology generally from going through those classes, and nothing really stuck through those classes, but it just kind of opened up my eyes to the fact that there's like more to know about God than than what I had at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely part of the journey, man. Is I think everybody probably, I assume everybody does, because I mean I go through this, so I assume everybody does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think sometimes we kind of get caught up in that terrible thinking, to where like, well, what else is there actually that I can learn in knowing about God?
Right.
Um, and so like, which is not a good place to be. Like nobody wants to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope. Um, but like as you study the scriptures, as you're involved with church, as just living life, like you're consistently brought back in and humbled, and you understand that you're reminded that how big God is, um,
Yeah.
through scripture, through living life, just through anything, man. Like there's these things that continuously, I think, bring us back in. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're taking class at Liberty. You're reminded
Mm-hmm.
that like God's bigger than like what you thought, man. Is there anything that's from your upbringing in the Nazarene church that like you still hold on to, maybe that you reflect back on and it's good?
Not quite. I wouldn't say so. No. Yeah.
No.
A faithful church attendance on Sundays. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be as charitable towards the Nazarene Church. I don't have anything. I don't wish any ill will towards the church. I affirm them as brothers and sisters in the faith. I
for sure.
disagree on some tertiary things that and ways that they go about teaching and whatnot. But yeah, uh, yeah. I guess I've kind of graduated from that persuasion. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, did you finish your degree at Liberty?
No, I didn't. So when I started, we had one child, and then we had a second child. And then, so it was just a very busy season, and I needed to, take a break. I was doing too much. Marriage wasn't doing well. There's a lot of not fighting, but just tension in our marriage, and to relieve that, I had to put some things down, and obviously that's something that I can always go back to someday. So
for sure.
mm-hmm.
So like, are y'all at a Southern Baptist church now?
No, we're actually at an Acts 29 church out here in Southern California. It's called the Fields.
Okay.
So it's not an expressly Reformed church by any means, but it's a wonderful church. I love it. I had a handful of, I guess, theological things that I wanted to find in a church out here, and so I did some research online before moving out here, and we tried a few churches, and then kind of at the same time, I heard about the Fields Church through a podcast actually that I was listening to, and my wife had a friend from our previous duty station also suggested as a church that they attended. So, just that to me was God saying, this is the church, because we both independently kind of arrived at this, at the Fields as being the church that we should give a try.
Nice, man. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we had met in a cigar group on Facebook, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if I understand correctly, if I got my info down,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that I know that come from like the Nazarene or holiness movements, like alcohol and tobacco is something that's not like acceptable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you kind of grow out of that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I grew up in the Nazarene church. My father is an alcoholic, and so I grew up around a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of him hiding it, him going to rehab a few times. He's been sober now for a while. He also had cancer last year, but he also had been smoking cigarettes since he was 13 years old when his father died. So grew up seeing the negative side of alcohol use, the sinful side of it. I never agreed with the Nazarene kind of, I guess, position, or anyone's position that drinking alcohol is sinful, because I was able to read the scriptures and see that, Christ was without sin and Christ drank wine. So, that's an interesting juxtaposition. I don't really know how to justify saying that it's sinful, but certainly it can be abused. I've been down that rabbit hole myself. I've drank sinfully. But I believe that, Christ frees us from the chains and binds of sin. That's part of the gospel message. And, we don't have to be a slave to alcohol,
right,
or tobacco. In moderation, these things are just fine. I would say that they're even gifts from God to be enjoyed to God's glory.
No, absolutely, for sure. Well, I'm glad to hear that, man, that your dad is no longer abusing alcohol, man. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Was it, I mean, did you ever as you've grown older, man, did you ever deal with when you were around it, or if you were consuming it, did you ever have that fear that you would fall into that?
I did. Not as a child, actually. Growing up, and even through my teen years, I said that I would never drink at all, not even a sip. Not because of the church, but because I had seen the negative side of it. I thought that it was worthless, that it was no good. But then, curiosity happened too. I became an adult. I joined the Marine Corps, of all places. There's very much a drinking culture in the Marine Corps. And that's where I guess you could say I also got into some of the sinful side of drinking. I've, at one point or another, I've been blackout drunk. I've, had to learn how to drink and to not get carried away. So
yeah, man.
So yeah, I have gone down the road of kind of imitating my father at times, for sure.
But I guess it sounds like you've been freed from that, so that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, man, because like I didn't grow up in a household where alcohol was ever there. And for the most part, tobacco wasn't there either. Mm-hmm. And so like even though like God saved me when I was a freshman in college, like I didn't come from I didn't grow up in the church or anything like that.
Right.
But alcohol was like forbidden in the house, and tobacco for all intents and purposes was as well. And so like I basically abstained from both of those things until I was an adult.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in the church or anything. But it was like the motivation was like definitely pride and self-righteousness. I was like, I wanted to prove that I was better than all these other people who did consume those things and was reckless with those things. And so I was like, a lot of times when I share my testimony with people, I tell them that I didn't consume those things until I was an adult. But in abstaining from them, my abstaining was actually rooted in sin.
Yeah.
Which is confusing for some people.
No, that makes total sense to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like I've actually, now that like I enjoy the occasional drink, bourbon, beer, whatever, and cigar, I can do that not rooted in sin. But when I was abstaining, I was rooted in sin when I was doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So which is kind of a fun thing to flesh out with people. But yeah, man, it's interesting, man. The culture is weird, man. Especially like when you, even like within Christianity and the church, it's just it's weird, man. I didn't know it, but like the whole till recently, the past couple of years, that taking grape juice with communion started within the Methodist Church. Like Welch's was a pastor in the Methodist Church. I don't know how I went so long without knowing that. But I think it's kind of lame, man, because like everybody's been letting like the Baptists fall on the sword for that for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that it started within the Methodist Church, and only like within the past maybe 200 years or less. Mm-hmm. I had no idea, man. That blew my mind.
Yeah. See, growing up in the Nazarene church, I only knew grape juice for communion, and I thought only Catholics had wine for the Eucharist. I didn't realize that there were Protestant churches that offered wine for communion until I was an adult, actually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. The church that we're at right now, we do wine and grape juice. I wish we could get away with just doing wine, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Our church is the same way. For both. Yeah.
Are you doing Lent or anything like that?
We are not. No. Not a whole lot of those traditions are really part of our church that we attend currently. But they do offer communion weekly. They offer wine and grape juice, for professing believers to take as they feel led. It's less traditional of a church. If that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, man. It makes sense. Like I said, man, I didn't grow up in the church.
Yeah.
And so when I came into the faith in college, I was ultimately around just evangelical Baptist stuff, which is typically like non-traditional, no structure, like no nothing. And so it's only been for me probably in the past maybe 5 years that as I've studied more and more history of the church, that I've been more drawn into some of the
You might be
traditions.
hearing my kids.
I thought it was my cats, man.
Yeah. We don't have cats, but sometimes my girls pretend to be cats.
So like, yeah, man, it's only been probably in the past 5 years that as I studied more history, I've grown more of an appreciation for a lot of those things.
Right.
And a lot of that is because I think when I heard about those things before, I didn't understand that those traditions were rooted in anything. Right. I thought that's just something that we did because my grandma did it and she did it because her grandma did it. And that was always good enough. Right. And so like, I've never observed Lent. I might next year, maybe. But like, I don't just think of it as something as the evil papists do anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I mean, as a teenager, there were times in the youth groups we would just, let's give up something for 40 days, like French fries or something silly like that. But again, I never had that background of it being some sort of, scripturally based tradition or, based on anything theological. It just looked like it was, one group of people imitating the folks who had come before them.
So are you more of a cigar guy or a pipe guy?
I am only a cigar guy for now. I am definitely interested in a pipe one day. I'm 31 right now, so I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe, trying out a pipe. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit intimidating, but I'm interested in it. Yeah, I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about it, and I don't know anyone close to me that smokes a pipe. So it would be all me either through the Facebook group asking folks or watching YouTube videos to figure it out. I am certainly interested. I think there's a broader or more robust source for tobacco for the pipe industry. Like I could get all these different flavors and whatnot. And yeah, there's all kinds of cigars out there too. But cigars, as I look at them, you kind of have like 4 different cigars, like a full body dark, cigar, one light body wrapped in Connecticut, something in the middle like a Maduro, and then a sweet, cigar like an acid or something like that. Which I like all of those. I'm definitely not picky, but I think I might get carried away with the pipe if I probably want to get like a tin of every single different, style and flavor that's out there. But that's not making me shy away from it. I don't know where to begin either. I don't even know.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, man, that you said the pipe might be intimidating. Mm-hmm. Why do you say that?
Just because I have no idea what I'm doing, and then they're not. I know a good one is not going to be very inexpensive, so I'll have to, spend some money, and then, if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll just be spending more money.
That's fair, man. I have a couple of pipes, but I always catch myself smoking cigars significantly more than I use my pipe. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like a pipe for me, it seems like a pipe takes more skill to smoke than a cigar does. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way of explaining what I was trying to say. You just have better words for it. So,
but they're definitely different. They're definitely a different experience. For me, pipes always seem like they're more about the aromatic experience than the cigar is.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate that about it. I also appreciate that a pipe, while the actual pipe is like an upfront cost, the tobacco is so much cheaper, man, than the cigar is.
Yeah.
Like it is definitely more affordable. But like I still to this day have a hard time keeping the pipe lit. I always have to go back and like relight it 3 or 4 times, and it just always ends up getting frustrating.
Yeah. I've read that that's okay though. I have that problem with cigars. Sometimes I'll light a stick and then it'll sit for too long while I'm either chatting with someone or watching a video on YouTube, reading a book, what have you. I do end up relighting cigars quite often as well.
So, you like acids?
Yeah, I can enjoy an acid for sure. It's not. They're not my go-to. I'm not gonna go to the store for one. But if I happen to have one as a gift, or if I'm getting kind of a variety pack or whatnot, and if that's part of it, like our local shop, he puts different bundles together. Go spend $20-$30 on a grab bag, and maybe it'll have an acid and a factory smoke and this and that. So
yeah, I've smoked 2 acids, man.
Yeah.
The first one I got it, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
and it was the Blue Label.
Yeah,
and so I was learning cigars. Went to like a little in the town I was in didn't have a cigar shop, but the liquor store had a humidor in it. And I was like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna grab something. And so I saw the acid. I was like, oh, I've heard of those before, so that might be good. So I went and grabbed it. I had no idea that it was like flavored. I didn't know that it had a sweet tip, and so like I literally felt like I was putting like a spoonful of Splenda in my mouth.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
And I ended up giving it to a friend of mine. He didn't care.
Right.
So the second one I had was the Yellow Label. And that one, I think because I knew what it was going to be, it was more enjoyable.
Yeah.
But like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
But it was definitely more enjoyable than the first one because I think I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. In high school, I used to go to the gas station and get like Phillies, and then me and my friend Ryan would go to the park and smoke the Phillies, which were also extremely sweet. So I guess I have a more of a palate for the sweet stuff.
Before I got into cigars, when I was in college, I had a friend who always had like a package of Swisher Sweets with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he would give me a couple of those, and I was like, I could probably get into this. I didn't know those things were garbage, though. I didn't assume they were good. I just didn't.
Right.
I just didn't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
I used to think. Yeah, in high school, I thought the Philly was actually, I thought a grape white owl was the pinnacle of cigars. Thought it was the greatest. It's like a $2 gas station wrapped in a grape wrapper that I never smoked weed, but I'm pretty sure like it's there for potheads to buy and carve out and put the weed inside. So, yeah.
I got a friend, man, who he always buys like I guess zigzags, and he
the wrappers.
Yeah, and he rolls them with pipe tobacco in them. And it's funny, which is great, man, because it always smells really good. It's just weird to watch somebody do that with pipe tobacco.
Right.
You can see my cat now, can't you?
Yeah, I can. That's fine though.
Yeah, he's weird, man. He's mad because I haven't fed him yet. So like, how has your? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I get a little upset too when it's 9 o'clock and I haven't eaten
yet. How has your palate developed over time with cigars, man?
Yeah, I've only kind of gotten into them in the last 2 years, 3 years, kind of since I got here to California. Prior to being out here, a cigar that I would get would be like a Black and Mild, nothing crazy, you know. But when we moved out here, I actually got like an ad in the mail to sign up for the mailing list for the Cigars International website, and then they'll send me, a box of 8, random cigars. So that was kind of my introduction to cigars. And then, I enjoyed them, and there was some folks at work who were into cigars, so I spent some time around them and learning about it that way. I started kind of on the lighter side, going for things like the acids, where it's not really dark. I guess full body is the word. More on the lighter, creamier, vanilla type cigars, and then I think occasionally I'll get something that's a bit darker, a bit more bold. And my favorite cigar that I have so far is it's a Romeo y Julieta.
Oh yeah.
I forget which line of it, but I think I made a post in the Facebook group about it. Pretty good stick. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, yeah, of course, man. Of course.
I'm slowly enjoying a stronger, more bold cigar as the months go by.
It's all part of the journey, dude.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is most people do kind of like what you're doing, where you kind of got into it with lighter cigars. Mm-hmm. You enjoyed the ones that are like have a sweet tip or probably infused with different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what most people do in the beginning, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I, for whatever reason, did the complete opposite. Like I didn't want a cigar if it wasn't dark, if it wasn't like a Maduro or like a double Maduro, a triple Maduro. Like that was almost all that it seemed like I smoked for like the first X number of years that I started smoking cigars. Like it never really made me sick. I don't know why. It actually kind of concerns me.
Yeah.
But over the past 2 years, because I think I've probably been smoking cigars probably for about, I don't know, man, 7 or 8 years, I guess. And over the past 2 years, I'm catching myself enjoying more of the lighter cigars. Mm-hmm. Like I enjoy a good Connecticut's, something with like a nice creamy smoke. I've been drinking more when I'm smoking. Yeah. And that like not just like bourbon, but like like coffee.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lounge.
Yeah, I always have something to sip on. Glass of water or a Dr. Pepper or a LaCroix. I'm drinking LaCroix tonight. I have a Dr. Pepper too.
Nice.
These are always good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just cleanse the palate.
Like there's a place out here where we live, and on Saturdays they do free coffee and tacos when you buy cigars.
Oh, okay.
Which is awesome. That's a great way to start a Saturday. And so like I'll go there and I'll grab like something light to have with the breakfast, with the coffee. And so I've been trying to learn more about how I can maybe pair a cigar with a drink. If I got a bottle of bourbon here, what kind of cigar might go well with that? Like the darker ones, like the Maduros, you can't really enjoy a drink with that because the flavors are so like powerful. But it's kind of where I think I'm at on that, man.
Yeah.
But do you ever smoke with guys at the church?
So I haven't. Well, let me back up. We had a men's night with kind of our small group from our church, and I brought a few inexpensive cigars because I didn't know what the attitude or what they thought of cigars. Which no one thought anything negatively about them, but the host he wasn't interested, and so there's one other gentleman who shared a cigar with me. That was the only time. But we had we tasted a few different whiskeys, like a Japanese whiskey, and then a couple different bourbons. And then had some snacks, some cheeses, and some bacon wrapped dates, and crackers, and had like a fire going. But most of the time I'm smoking alone. My wife on occasion will sit outside with me. She's not a fan of the aroma though, so it's usually just me.
She'll come around.
Yeah. So at the beginning, when I first started getting into it, she would sit outside with me, but it's been a little while. Yeah, I had one friend that
started smoking with me about a couple years ago. Cigars are getting expensive now. It's expensiver.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I get a bundle of more inexpensive cigars, and that saves in the long run. So,
yeah, man, I started like if I go to something social and I know that cigars and stuff are going to be enjoyed, I started bringing like instead of bringing like the stuff in my humidor, I started like grabbing like a couple like factory smokes type cigars. They're like over here. You can get a factory smoked cigar for about $2.
Yeah, they're probably $3 to $4 out here.
It's still a pretty good price, man. I just got tired of handing somebody a $15 cigar and then getting halfway through it and just putting it down.
Right.
That's not acceptable.
Yeah. You don't want to cast your pearls at swine,
Yeah.
So
that's perfect, man. What podcasts are you enjoying? You a podcast guy?
I am, yeah. So I probably get about 90% of my information through podcasts. It's not, I would prefer to read, but I just don't have the time to read everything that I could listen to. I could look at my podcast feed and just tell you what I listen to, because I'll forget everything. Well, I listen to the Ron Paul Liberty Report. You might be familiar with that gentleman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, we could have been talking about that this whole time.
Sorry.
Dang, okay.
I listen to it. Sometimes it's way over my head, the things that they're talking about. Sometimes I'm like right there in it. So I've got that. Are you familiar with the Fight Laugh Feast network?
The what?
The Fight Laugh Feast network.
Oh, yeah. I heard you say fight lefties the first time.
That I'm not saying no to that. That's funny.
But yeah, I've heard of that network.
Okay, yeah. So they have a few podcasts that I listen to. The Cross Politic, In the Bullpen with Mark Dewey. I guess he's a former MLB pitcher. He's got a podcast. He talks about baseball, but he talks about faith too. So I listen to that. I listen to a couple of the different CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network. They've got like a news podcast and an interview podcast, and then some focus on the family. I've got the City Square podcast in my podcast
there you
feed.
Go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's a lot on here. I'd just be rattling everything off.
So how did you get into Ron Paul?
How did I get into Ron Paul? I got into Ron Paul because during the 2016 election, I didn't think that we had any candidates that I was really interested in. So I became interested in the gentleman whose name I can't remember right now. Gary?
Oh, yeah, Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson, yeah. And so I got into some libertarian politics, and I had heard of Ron Paul because actually I quite liked Rand Paul. I think when Rand Paul was running for the 2016 election, I was very much interested in him, but he dropped out sometime in the race. But I knew Rand Paul. I knew he was Ron Paul's son, and so one day I was looking for, I think, just podcasts to listen to that were libertarian, and Ron Paul, he's like the Gandalf of libertarians, I think. So
yeah, man,
good person to listen to.
It's Probably the
And I read
greatest
his
man that'll
book.
never go.
Yeah.
Say what?
I was going to say, he has a book, I think it's called Revolution.
Yeah.
That he wrote, I don't know, like 2002 or 2003. I have that. I read that a couple of years ago. I quite enjoyed it. What I like about him and Rand is that they are believers, and I think they have a pretty solid theological context that they come from that kind of leads the way they have worked in their political jobs.
For sure, man. Mm-hmm. I always say that Ron Paul is probably the greatest man that'll never go down in any of our history books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Was his foreign policy a big thing for you?
Yeah, I think the non-interventionist, non-interventionist policy is the approach that I think that I agree with the most.
Gotcha.
Allowing neighbors to figure out their neighborhood. It's interesting because of the job I have, right? Like foreign policy directly affects what I do every day.
Well, because I remember when he ran in 2012, this was probably true for 2008 also. He had the most military support of anybody in the GOP that was running.
Yeah, I have read that, or I've heard him talk about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at one point in the 2016 election, Gary Johnson had the most military support as well. It's interesting.
Yeah. He was too goofy though, man.
Yeah. He was. Although like I think Spike is a bit more goofy than he is. Yeah, I voted for him too. Yeah.
Yeah, like I voted for him, but like he was a little too goofy, man. Mm-hmm. I know that. I think since Spike started receiving like fame from the 2016, he chilled a lot of his weirdness out.
Yeah.
Because like I think he ran as like a satirical candidate.
Did he?
I think
like Joe Exotic.
Yeah. And then like when he won the VP for the Libertarians in 2020, he was like, "Oh, I could actually make a difference."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I think he started to chill, but yeah, man, that guy's he was weird, man. I've seen him on a few shows now and then. He actually is having like real conversation, like on I've seen him like on Timcast a few times, and like a couple of the shows, and he's on there like having like intelligent conversation. I'm like, oh, that's good. Mm-hmm. But I like Ron Paul, man. I like the dude a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is always interesting though, man, because like I'm never surprised when people that are in the military are a fan of him.
Yeah.
Mainly because like I've followed him when he was running for president, and I knew that those guys liked him. But you wouldn't know it if you didn't watch those debates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, and he served the nation too in uniform. I think he's an Air Force veteran. So there's kind of already some sort of common ground.
He was a medic, right?
I don't know if he was, but I mean, he's a physician in real life, an obstetrician. So, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I think we lost connection for a second there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're good now.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Okay. All right.
Well, dude. Yeah. Since the connection seems like it's getting spotty, man, that might be a good place to start to wrap things up.
Okay. Yeah.
But thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it, man. It was good.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad for the opportunity. Happy to join you again. We could talk more on some of those other subjects that arise towards the end.
Yeah, man. We can
freedom.
Yeah, dude. We can definitely come. We'll come back on. We'll talk liberty, freedom, why Christians should care about it. That'd be a blast, man.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But
all right.
Until next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoy the conversation, like we already said in the beginning, don't forget to drop any questions, any comments you have down in the comments below. And as always, please hit subscribe, like the video, click the bell. You already know that stuff makes a big deal for us with this channel. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Amen.